Hello
and
and
welcome.
welcome. What is it after the hello?
We go hello together, right?
Okay, yeah.
You go and welcome to the live stream. I go of consciousness.
And welcome to the live stream of consciousness. That's Michael Zinn. I'm Jesse Blaze Snyder,
What is
and it
happening,
is
folks?
lovely to see you guys. I'm going to be kind of like vibrating here in place today because this week I kind of um, jerked my lower back and I got some of that sciatic nerve stuff going on. So I'm
Oh, I
trying
thought you
not
were
to sit
vibrating for
too
a good
much.
reason.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of good reasons to vibrate too, because I'm seeing my babies are coming to stay with me for the
Yes.
summer in just a few days. In 2 days, I leave
That's
on
awesome.
Saturday really early in the morning, grab them at the airport, and then head right back. And I'm so excited. So, and then my
That's
kids are
awesome.
so excited. It's good. How's life going by you, Mr. Michelson?
Life is going good, man. Life is going good. We got some people. I want to say hello to Ninja Kitty. We've got some new people. We got Morgan,
Ooh, say hello to
Pfizer.
everybody, and talk about your week while I grab my.
Okay, we've got Angela. Hello, Angela. We've got Taylor out there. Hello, Taylor. Taylor saying hello to Ninja Kitty. So yeah, this week was pretty good. I actually turned my lease in on my car, and I didn't like being in a lease, so I decided to finance a car. So I financed an HRV. So I've got an HRV.
Nice.
Yeah. So
That's
and
cool.
I very uncreatively named my HRV Harvey.
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 I
Harvey
thought
the HRV.
I thought cars were girls.
Like PJ Harvey.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't know.
Okay.
It seemed appropriate. Harvey. So and then we got somebody else there. Hello, Zelda Star. Welcome. Welcome. We've got a couple of new listeners, new viewers. Listeners, viewers, beers. How was your week, buddy? Are you there? Hello?
Well, honestly, my week was a little rough. I got sick and I had like a bit of a stomach thing and I really wasn't feeling good. And then because I was like run down and sick and wasn't that active, my lower back like had a chance to sort of spasm when I just was like in a weird position and I had a little cough and my muscles in my back went out. And so that was not fun because it was one of the longest amounts of time. Sorry, I just got my hair cut and I feel like I have hair
Oh,
in my eye.
no wonder you look so handsome.
Um, Thank you. But it was like the longest amount of time I had to deal with that
Sciatic.
helplessness that comes with
Mm,
sciatic nerve pain. It's
yeah.
really no fun. The last time
Pain
I
is
did
the
it to
worst, man.
myself, I was super motivated because I was kind of with a friend who could work on me. And when I was hurt, they tended to feel like guilty. So I didn't like to be hurt around them. And I had like done it like by myself and I was away from them and I'm like, I got to get this together so that like they don't think this is their responsibility. And I'm literally like,
Mm.
on the floor looking up YouTube videos of what to do, like to get your back straight. And I managed to get myself straight. And this time though, I couldn't get up from the seat I was in because it had an armrest on one side, and then it like the couch cushion where I was sitting was really really squishy, so the
Right.
differential was like this, and I couldn't
Uh,
get any. So I'm like
Twisted yourself
trying to.
weird.
I was just trying to turn around for a while, just like trying to get my like it was just one of the hi hi and I finally was like on the floor, going all right, well I don't know what to do about this, and I crawled over to the nightstand up there, and I got my father on the phone, and I said, he's like, I'm in the house. I'm like, I know you're in the house. Can you
Oh
please come
wow.
upstairs?
Yipes.
And then I mean, I largely kind of got myself situated. He helped me a little bit, but like just kind of like helped me to have somebody there. I think that just like calmed me down because like it
Right.
really sucks if you're somebody who's ever dealt with any of that sciatic nerve stuff or whatever. And
Hmm.
don't let the doctor tell you it's going to be for forever. I think if we do the proper work, I think my big problem has been that I haven't done enough work to support it, enough work
Hmm.
to prevent that from happening, the preventative
Hmm.
care. But it really does suck when that happens. It just
Yeah, totally. It's
you
debilitating.
feel so helpless and so like, what am I gonna do? Like you
Yeah.
can't do anything. And then even when you get to the point where you're like standing, oh my god, my brain is not working because like
Right.
every 2 seconds I've got a decent shot of like up into my spine, and then I'm like, what was I doing? Where am I? What's my name?
Oof.
Like it's
That's
really
horrible.
just
Yeah,
it's
I
not
used to get
fun.
it when was driving, so it would be when I was sitting in a sitting position. I would get the sciatic pain, but I haven't experienced it in a while. I'm actually
Well,
glad. So
that's
it
good,
did
and
go away.
I kind of feel like this is the last hurrah for mine. I keep getting
Yeah,
kind of challenged to like press these things out, but I got
good.
my kids coming, and I'm super
Yeah,
excited.
that's good. That's
I'm
something to look forward to.
3 weeks into food paradise, and
Sweet.
having and you know what, and I had, my parents were very helpful and whatnot, but also I had someone to turn to. Shout out to my girlfriend Julie, who's just the most wonderful and
Awesome.
innocent, sweet person, and literally left work to come and help me the next day to get over to my friend who's a chiropractor and like get me up and get me, because I really like I think I got myself straight the night before, and then I was determined to go to work the next day because I was supposed to, and I think I just stretched and did all these things and I overdid it, and it just went,
Right.
oh no man, we're not ready for that, because every
Wow.
video I watched was like on day 2, on day 3, and I'm like on day 3 I do stretches. I'm like, I'm doing that now, and maybe that wasn't the best advice for
Uh,
myself to give myself.
Jesse
But
Blaze
see,
pushing
this is
himself.
this is the thing. So like, yeah. So
So are you standing up right now? Taylor's asking if you're
I'm
standing.
standing. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
standing. That's why I'm kind of like
Are you
pacing a little
usually
bit here.
standing up when we're doing the podcast or no?
No, I
No,
usually
no.
sit. I
Okay.
usually
I'm
sit,
sorry,
but
bud, man.
my sitting is not
Let's
so great right now.
let's not talk about it. Let's talk about something else. Let's get your mind
Yes,
off.
I am
We
strong.
want to.
It's so funny. I literally the other day when I was talking about it to somebody and I said the word weak, I felt my body like react to it.
Words
Like I
have
said, like
power.
we had an association with, well, my I got something in my back that's a little, and I was like, whoa,
You know what?
and
That's
I was like,
interesting.
strong,
Yeah,
strong.
yeah,
My
it's
back is strong.
interesting.
Everything's very strong.
Once you know that, like all the stuff we know and we talk about, the power of words, and you hear yourself saying something wrong, like, oh shit, I just fucked up. I just said I'm poor or whatever you say. It's like, and the power of words, man. It's the power of thought. We all know that, right? That's like
It's the truth.
stream of consciousness 101.
Well, I've been saying this is a good spiritual thing to kick off the show before we talk about the thing. When I
Cool.
was younger, I would say that my almost like my battle cry for atheism was the story of Job. And if you don't know the story of Job from the Bible, essentially there's like this deal with the devil that God makes where he's like, you know, devil says that God doesn't love him for the right reasons. He just loves him because he give him everything. And, and God's like, now you wait, you see, like, I'll take everything away from him. He'll still love me. And seeing that, like as like a human being, I was just sort of like, that's like describes the worst relationship I have ever heard of. What an abusive piece of garbage that God is. If that man is, if
Wow.
that's a real being, what an
You
abusive,
know what? And
like
it's
passive
amazing. Yeah.
aggressive move.
Right.
Like based on that, like he's like, no, 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 man. Watch, I will rub his nose in shit. He's still gonna like me. It's like, I mean, if like your girlfriend did that to you, everybody in your family who cared about you would be like, you need to get this motherfucker out your life. Like,
That's so
like
funny, man.
this person
You're
is
like
not
the
good for
Bible
you.
says God is passive aggressive, man.
Yes, I'm like, the Bible says God is a real dick sometimes, like for no reason. I didn't, Job did nothing
It's
to
all interpretation.
volunteer. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to get to that in a second. But Job did
I love
nothing
it.
within this context of the story to deserve these things. He was a grateful,
Right.
pious, the right word, pious
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah.
So that story really sort of disturbed me foundationally, and and I've come to understand it in a lot of different ways. But one of the
Yeah.
things, that I see, I think that the part of it with this conversation that Satan and God have. I don't know how that can be interpreted in other ways, and maybe it can. But you putting that aside, um, the story that Job goes through is is the story of true appreciation. And it would be a better story if we were able to see that Job didn't necessarily appreciate these things. And in doing this thing, like, and God's was trying to teach him something. This notion to have faith no matter what. It is a good idea, but it's a good idea because they're not doing that to you on the other side. You're not going down the path that Job went down unless that's the energy you have to work out.
Right, right,
And
right.
within that, so often everybody's journey, it looks like hell, because it tends to be based around what we have put energy into fearing,
Hmm.
you know, and usually it comes from oh, I want this so much, I never want this to end. And then it does. And
Right.
then we're like, oh my goodness, I can't control the universe. Now, the reality is, we want to just inherently know that everything is supposed to be in line with us, and there's no reason to be out of balance about it. And what we want will eventually come our way if there's nothing standing in the way, whether there's something that we can't understand standing in the way, or some amount of
Ourselves.
our energy that is
Yeah,
standing
yeah,
in the
yeah.
way. So
Right.
so that Job story, I've felt a lot like Job um of late. And and that um what I see, I'm trying to explain this the best way with my back. um I think I've said this before. We come around in the law of correspondence, and we feel as though we've been here before, but it's different. And on the way up in your swing of momentum, as the momentum intensifies, each time around, you're like, "What the hell is that?" And
Right,
next
right.
time around, you're like, "What the hell is?" And then by the time it gets up to its apex, you're like, "I can't even take it anymore."
Right,
And
right, right.
and hopefully, usually there's a tipping point there, for you in one way, in one fashion or another. And as that clicks, that tipping point, and you start swinging back, the next time it's, "Oh, really, this again?" And then the next time it's, "Oh, you kidding me?
Right.
Okay." And then
All
the
right.
next time it's, "Okay,
Whatever.
I'm
Right,
getting
right,
a little bit of that thing."
right.
You
Eventually, you
know,
just like, yeah.
and at the same time, there is sort of a ramping up of what it is that you're dealing with.
Right.
So what it is you're dealing with is kind of soft, but you're like, "Okay, one more punch in the face," and you're softening. And now it's like a bigger punch in the face. All right, but I'm getting on to you. And I mean, and literally this like thing this night of my back going out, I view it as the backwards momentum shift of the big punch in the face that was meant to shake me to my core or make me go, "No, I have faith and it's okay." And I've been working on all these things, and this is just a very good signpost for me that I got to be active. The other day, I went for a walk instead of going to the gym. Probably should have went to the gym. There's I've been trying to be more active. I want
Right.
to stick to that. I don't want to like coddle
Right. But
myself. I
also,
want to be.
like you said, you don't want to go to day three when you haven't done day one or two yet. You know.
Yes, I mean, in the case of this thing, I mean, I got an airplane flight, on Saturday, and I got to work on Friday, so I got to get myself going within the right fashion. And I mean, generally speaking, I've been able to get myself together with these things pretty good. I think I just really kind of, I just gave myself a nice little pinch in my back. So if there's any Reiki masters out there who want to send me some good Reiki love to my lower back,
Oh
I'd
yeah,
appreciate it.
there probably is
Keep
a couple of
softening this thing. It'd be
listeners. Yeah.
nice.
So
Appreciate it.
it's interesting that I want to just mention a couple things. A couple of our listeners are uh,
And let me know when our guest is in the back room, by the way.
uh, our guest is in the back room,
Okay, good.
waiting patiently. But we had a couple of our viewers, Angela and Ninja Kitty, talking about their back surgeries and things. So you're not alone. We're all kind of dealing with our
let,
things.
let me say one thing about that before we go
Okay.
on. It's just since it is resonating with the crew.
Yeah.
um I watched my ex-father-in-law, Paul Story, go through so much pain with his back. He's not the only one. But really surgeries and things, and so many times of hope and false hope, and really, it killed me. seeing him in so many, because it tends to be, I think, the mightiest of us, the most active of us, the people who are the most helpful. We burn ourselves out. And and the people who really want to get in there, all of a sudden they're like, man, I can't get in there anymore. All I want to do is take care of the other people, and obviously I'm not very good at taking care of myself, because look where I am. And and we really we need to hold on to hope, and I think try to stay away from these surgeries. There's a lot of different people who
Hmm.
you can talk to, from chiropractors and acupuncturists and other avenues. Most of, I've come to believe, this is my opinion, you would say consult a
Right.
medical
Everybody's
doctor if that's
different,
what you want to do.
I'm with
But
you.
at the
Yeah.
end of the day, um, the majority of the problems within our system are imbalances in our body. And granted, there are usually emotional imbalances and stuff, and these things might come up as you work on these physical imbalances. But if you get your body functioning more correctly, and you haven't already been intervened with a lot of surgeries and stuff, there's a lot of relief to be had. And I have had a lot of relief. My lower back's the trickiest one, because my hips were literally flipped into a weird position. So, my hips are now straight, and my spine's generally straight, but occasionally I'll have my lower back pop out on me at the moment. But I think this is the end of it for me. And, thinking
Right.
positively, whether it happens again or not, it doesn't matter. Staying positive and keeping your eye on the prize, believing that it is possible to get over it, is the most important
Totally.
thing. Don't just,
Totally.
if I don't care, my chiropractor, who's a really good friend of mine, but my girlfriend, after we left, she was like, he's kind of negative, like I don't think that's true, that it's going to take this long, and because he was saying all these things about how long it was going to take me to
Right.
recover. And I was like, I'm right with you. Every time he said it, I was like, nah, I'm going to be fine. But
Right. Right. Right.
some people will say that, some doctors will say that to you, and honestly, it makes me so upset, because what do we learn
Yeah.
from Patch Adams? It's like, laughter, a light heart, that
Right.
helps the medicine,
Right.
that helps you to get over things. The placebo medicine wins so much of the time. It's your attitude
Those are
that
big
helps.
other bigger conversations.
Yeah, but
Uh,
seriously, really,
yeah.
don't lose hope. Keep your attitude right, and keep exploring other means of getting at it. Because I'm making progress with it, despite the fact that I just had a little
Absolutely.
problem with it
Oh,
this
what's up,
weekend.
Mandy? I see
All right, so
Mandy's there.
tonight we've got a fabulous guest, and we're going to tell you at the end of the show about our calendar for next month. We'll be announcing that, but right now we're going to be bringing my friend Tanya onto the show. And
Yes.
Tanya
So
is
excited.
more than my friend; she is a member of my family.
That's so
She
awesome.
is a fiance to my brother Cody Snyder, who we had on the show, I guess a month or two ago now.
Yep.
And Tanya, a little bit of her story is connected to, crosses paths, I think, with Cody's a little bit, and hopefully she can. It'll give you a little bit of extra depth to some of the things that my brother is getting to learn as he gets to journey with Tanya on this spiritual path, because
Yes.
Cody was focusing very much on um, the Reiki, his experience, his opening up was based around that so much.
Mhm, mhm.
And I think Tanya's going to talk to us a lot about her experiences dealing with aliens and the simulation.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
I'm really excited to
I
walk
did
her
a
through.
little. I
Oh,
did a
yeah.
little.
Do you want to do a
Yeah,
little
yeah. I
I know
did a
you're
little
so
digging.
good. Yeah.
I did a little digging, and I know that we brought her here to tell her awesome stories about her experiences, but she's also very super talented,
Oh, yeah.
and I would love to just share her reel. It's very quick. It's a minute
Oh,
long.
yeah. That's a great.
All
Thank you
right,
so much.
awesome.
Perfect.
So here we
Yeah.
go. I'm gonna play her reel. Everybody's gonna look.
Are you ready for this? Name, check-in time, keys on the wall.
Come on in. The water's fine.
You wouldn't happen to have any change, would you? Much obliged.
I hope they're still serving breakfast.
So cool. so great.
I know you can hear me! This is not a game! I don't want to die!
Dude.
Viral, dude. Come on, just like Boy Scouts.
It's 110 degrees out here and you're making a fire?
Oh my god!
Okay, hey, are you done?
Oh,
Bam.
that's so awesome. Thanks
Oh
for
my
breaking
God.
that out, Michael.
How amazing. How freaking amazing. I'm so excited to meet her.
Well,
So I'm
without further ado, can we bring on brilliant director, close friend,
here she
Tanya
comes.
Dahl.
Oh, bam. Hello.
Hi!
Hey, beautiful. How's it going?
Oh, it's so good to see you guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
totally.
great.
You sound great.
Okay, perfect. I put my little mic. I saw your mics and I'm like, damn it, I need to get it quickly. So I'm glad
Nice.
it's working.
Nice
How's it
horse. I like your horse.
Yeah. Oh, wait, where is it? This way?
Yes.
Yeah. I actually saw this painting like in a store and I wanted it for years, but I couldn't get myself to spend like $1,000 on a print. And then finally one day it was on sale and I was like, I'm doing it. And it's crazy. This guy, actually, his name's James Way, and his canvases are 40 feet wide.
Oh,
Wow.
So everything he paints has so much detail because when they take the print and shrink it down, all of a sudden you can see like all the little details. It's really cool.
Oh,
Amazing.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
really cool. Oh,
I
that's
love that.
awesome.
Welcome
So-
to our show.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. I finally. Oh, well, I have to reveal this later, but I'm slowly but surely getting through the family, and so it's really nice to see your face here and to have your part of the story. Generally, what we do is, there's a lot of people out there who are awakening to further experiences in consciousness, and so much of the people, I know myself included, we feel crazy as things happen to us that nobody has ever reported back to us before. And I think everybody's story is so unique. Everybody's journey is so unique. But the one way to combat the fact that one story doesn't sound like yours, the next one doesn't sound like yours, is just a lot of them. A lot of people explaining how they started to think that maybe there's a lot more going on, and I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to know more about it. And but before we get into your story, which I would love to hear, from the very beginning, but, we always like to ask, what is your definition of consciousness?
Oh, I honestly think it's, living from a place of love in every single respect, from loving the existence that you have, be it good or bad. It's loving everything around you and really just being like present and really discovering the magnificence of this world that we're in. And then once you do that, expanding your consciousness into greater realms of, consciousness, or like extraterrestrials and deities and stuff like that. So things that sorry, somebody's walking around back there, Cody. But I think it's just really, it's coming from a space of love, loving yourself fully, right? Coming like back home to yourself, and then spreading that love and that healing with as many people as you possibly can.
The
Ding,
live
ding,
stream
ding.
of love. Yeah, ding, ding, ding. I was like, that's the rightest answer we've gotten yet, because I think that is the closest to the definition that Michael and I mean, within this, because at the end of the day, for us, I think maybe we've broken it down before with each other as sort of conscious of the oneness, like being conscious of what the reality is, which is not a bunch of separate things, a bunch of things that are me, and I'm gonna have to pay that bill with me later, because I would like the bill paid with me, and if it's me, like it's all equal, and that notion of going around taking more than you should isn't, it's just not viable. Once you become conscious of what we're actually in, which is just a connected being of loving energy, which is even almost like a misnomer, like in terms of interpretation, because like we hear love and we think of like romantic love, but
Right.
it's almost just this magnetism of oneness, of a vibration that is vibrating together as one thing. Like one of my early ayahuasca experiences, I remember, um, was being shown how sort of detrimental it is to us the way we're taught about our health. They break apart all of our systems into this system and that system and this system and that system and this system. And they were like, no, it's just one. It's just one thing. It's one harmonious thing. And when someone looks at your system and isn't looking about how this is affecting the other systems and all these, they're not thinking correctly about what they're really looking at. The idea that we can go remove this appendix, it doesn't do anything. We don't know what it does. And
Right.
it's part of the one system. So I tend not to, try to avoid all of the removing anything from me if possible.
Don't we all?
Because I really think that it's all
Absolutely.
meant to be the one thing that it is.
Yeah.
So anyway,
It's funny
yeah, sure.
what you were talking about with the oneness thing. So something that's really actually changed the way that I view the world is working with not like plant medicines, but actual plants themselves, like having plants, because you have to understand that plants, if you give too much or you give too little, they die. Right. So that's like neutrality. That's like living in this world. It's being able to not give too much of yourself where you're depleted or taking too much or, whatever. You have to just enough. So everything's stable. And also the cool thing about plants is it's really got me into insects. I think bugs are the coolest things ever. And I have I've always taken spiders outside and everything, but never to the point of sitting there and just staring at the bugs and be like, wow.
Right.
You are so magnificent. Look how cool you are,
Right.
Anyways, and that's the whole connectedness. It's down to the tiniest little bit and how each little organism has such an important role to play in the grand scheme of things.
Once you understand what they're doing, it's like within the X-Men team, you're like, oh, what is that guy? Oh, he does this. That makes him good. It's like, oh, the ants are oh, okay. And they're doing that and they're adding that to okay. And he's killing all of the other bugs that I don't like. Okay, good.
Right.
It really does make them so much more it's an ecosystem, just like the body is one, the system is one. When I was down in Peru doing ayahuasca, they brought us through their farming and all of the techniques that are going on, because it's a really terrible thing when the Western world comes over to a lot of these countries. Our needs are sometimes very singular. Oh, they want coffee or they want chocolate or they want this, and the villagers have an opportunity to sort of be head and shoulders richer than the other people in their village all of a sudden, and they go and they just tear down parts of the forest and plant a bunch of chocolate, and then a whole bunch of other people do it because they're like, oh, they made some money too, and before you know it, the forest is getting really imbalanced with one crop that's diminishing returns in the soil and all these other different things that happen when you're just doing one thing too much. And it happens all across the world in so many different fashions.
There's a beautiful documentary about that. I think it's called.
It's about permaculture.
It's called something The Ground, and it just came out, and it's all about how we've depleted our soil, and that's why even through the Dust Bowl and everything, all that stuff is because we've depleted all the nutrients in the soil, and now our soil is just barren because we've just been growing corn or one particular crop.
It's not a mix, so it's not.
Yeah,
the clay
it's interesting
anymore.
you're saying that, because I read something about bugs recently that everything has its purpose, and the humans are the only species that doesn't really do its thing for the earth. We're just not me personally, but as a species, we're just doing everything for ourselves and not as part of that ecosystem.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. When you think about it like that, it's really wow.
And every other creature does
We're
what
the
it's
freeloaders on the planet.
It's totally
Damn it.
destroyers.
But if you think
Hopefully, most of us are feeding each other.
And also, though, if you look at we're talking about the smallest microorganisms and stuff, when people are like, oh, we are so minuscule in the grand scheme of things, it's yeah, but again, even down to the bugs, every single one of them has a purpose. There's a reason why each one of them is there. So people are like, oh, I maybe I'll just if I don't mean anything, I'm just going to kill myself or whatever. And you're like, no, you don't even realize. Maybe you just don't understand why you're here.
Right.
But in the grand scheme of things, you actually have a very important job here, and we all do. If we're following our joy and following our passions, then we are expressing ourselves, and that's our job.
Exactly.
and you were there when I mean, I had the realization shortly before this, but I mean, I got on my knees and I kissed your man's feet for doing what I knew I couldn't do. I thought I had seen that I was supposed to connect with my family in this spiritual way. We're supposed to sit down and like have this spiritual circle. I'd mentioned it to Michael Zinn years earlier, and I was just sort of like, but I don't know how that's happening. I can't do that. And when Cody called me, I'd like, one, it freed me, and then it freed me to have perspective, to recognize how we're just also integral to each other. Without the one, there is no other. Without the one, we can't move forward. As this one helps this one build. We build on each other's momentum. We build on each other's encouragement and and energy, or we diminish each other's energy. And it goes kind of one way or the other. It doesn't just kind of stay stagnant. It just
right. So, I like the noises.
Yeah.
We're all part of a universal trail mix.
Yes.
Yes,
Indeed.
I love that.
So Tanya, if you will, as I always say to our guests, the floor is yours. We're interested in your story, and we would just, love to listen, us and our listeners, and of course, we'll ask questions and interject if we want to try to guide the audience a little bit in what you're saying or whatever. But we would love to hear, what was your journey? Where did you go from, a normal kid and then start going like, hey, wait a second, there's some things, and I'm thinking maybe I should take these things seriously, because obviously you've been seeing some things in some of your more recent life. So the floor is yours.
Okay, well, first of all, Michael, thank you so much for playing my reel. That was really sweet.
Awesome.
So that actually has a lot of significance to my story. So I was a commercial director. I still do commercial directing here and there, but not as much anymore. I'm transitioning what I'm doing in life at the moment. And so all of my work, I was constantly trying to make light of aliens because they actually scared me so much. So my whole life, I've grown up always having like a sixth sense, being able to see ghosts, and I could see auras on people and all that. And I live in a constant state of fear, like constantly, when the next thing was going to happen, because I was having the craziest things. And it was just getting more and more in my face as the time went on.
So now real quick, just to clarify. So as a child, like how old were you? You could see auras, you could see the colors of the energy fields around people's bodies.
Yeah,
and is that
I was
still
like,
true?
Yeah, so that started happening. I mean, the earliest I can remember, the first like sort of supernatural sort of thing that happened, I was like 5 years old. And it's funny because I always thought like everyone, like every house I ever moved into was just haunted. I'm like, oh, that's just all haunted. I keep moving into the wrong houses. But, they always say like places aren't haunted, people are. But I don't now I'm like, oh no, I just am like somehow open to that. I'm just sensitive to that. And I've been able to, experience that my whole life. So I remember my dad always loved the X-Files, right? That was like his show. And so he would play the X-Files, and I was so terrified of aliens that I literally would like plug my ears and I'd be like, ah! I'd like run into the other room because I did not want to hear the X-Files theme song, because to me that was like scary aliens are going to attack me. And it's so funny. So yes. Good thing now it doesn't bother me.
Yes.
So
I'm like hearing it in my mind. I'm like, I didn't even watch the show, but I'm like, I remember that noise. It was kind of a spooky noise.
It was spooky, especially for a kid. It was spooky.
It was like an alien western.
I like that. I like it. But don't forget the doodle in the background. There's like that little just.
Yeah.
Yes, and that. Okay, so it's like a 3-part harmony right here. We've got. So yeah, I was like, I lived in a constant state of terror, and then so I would when I would direct stuff, I was a creative director at an agency and we did a lot of commercials. And so I was constantly trying to get ETs and monsters and anything that was sort of like supernatural or fantasy, right, to be in the commercials. And I'm talking my clients into that is always.
I was going to say you had so many different things. I mean, mermaids and leprechauns, and and as we said, aliens. But I mean, and then so many different interesting visuals and kind of fun bizarreness. It really,
I totally get it. Things that like would scare
reel.
you. That
yeah. I mean, I was always fascinated by the supernatural, obviously, but at the same time terrified of it. But it was like my favorite thing to talk about too. So even like I was in a band for years, and all we would listen to was Coast to Coast. Do you know Coast to Coast?
I love Coast to Coast.
Yeah.
I go to Coast to Coast every week just to see if they've found any werewolves or Bigfoot or anything new.
Yeah, it was so fun. I remember going when we would go on tour, we would always like play Coast to Coast. That was like our thing in the van. We'd be like, yeah, it's Coast to Coast. Looking at the Black Eyed Children now and stuff. But yeah, so anyway, I lived in a constant state of fear. And then it's funny because I did an Akashic Records reading, and the woman told me, she was like, Mother Ayahuasca is calling to you. And I was like, okay. I had just heard about ayahuasca from my friends Danielle and Eric, and I still like hadn't done anything with it because I thought I had to go to Peru or I had to do something like that. And then I met Cody randomly at a Starbucks on the way down from Lake Arrowhead Hill after Christmas. And we got to talking and ended up meeting up and talking about everything. And we realized we had like the same story. We're both like in bands. We were both directors. We both were terrified of extraterrestrials. Wow. And we were like, okay, this is strange. And he goes, you need to go to ayahuasca. And I'm like, okay, this is the third time I've heard about this. And there happened to be a circle that I could go to. And actually, Jesse, your mom is the reason why I went.
You told me that today.
Yeah. So I had never I didn't want to go. So I was like, oh, if it's not in Peru, like I'm not going to do it. Like I need to go like to authentic, where the medicine's from. Right. And then Cody was like, well, like if you do it in the United States, then like at least there's a hospital down the road. There's like your emergency contact, blah, 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 blah. It'll just make you feel like safer. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I was like, I don't know. And then your mom was going. And I was like, wait, your mom's going. Okay. If Cody's mom's going, I'm going to go. Whatever, I'll do it. So crazy. It was literally in that ayahuasca ceremony, like right in the beginning. So I go in and there's all these. So when you go to ayahuasca, there's a lot of like fractals. People have probably seen the images of people doing their artistic renditions of what ayahuasca looks like. Mm-hmm. And so I see all these fractals, but like I can see something above it. And I'm like, hey, there's like somebody up there. And I'm like, I can see you guys. I'm like, I don't know what's happening right now, and then all of a sudden they just start bombarding me with all this information, like just so much information about how this world works, like everything, like trying to like just break my brain open or something. I don't know. And I was like, oh my God, this is so much. But, so then they like ended up taking me to this room with this fluffy purple cat because I just needed to be calm for a second. I was like, I just need to feel loved for like a second and calm. So I got into this room with this giant fluffy purple cat with 3 eyes, and it had a snake body, but it was fluffy. And I was like curled up in it, and it was purring and like vibrating my body. And it was like this unconditional love. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then all these eyeballs start opening around on its body. And I was like, oh, okay. And like love crystals were coming out of it. And it's like, blinking. It's ridiculous. So after that, I get like completely thrown back into the fractal world. And I'm like, all right, I can still see you guys, but I can feel like I'm getting worked on, like physical, like poking and prodding. And I'm like, this is bizarre. Okay. And so I'm like, hey, I know that these fractals are just like a distraction or something. I need to see you, please. I'm not afraid. Like, I really just need to see who you are. So the room, like I was just back in the room with everybody, and I'm like, oh, I'm back here again. I saw these energetic tubes coming from the ceiling and attaching to each of the people. And I could see the energy coming down and hitting the people. And they would react as soon as the energy would hit them. And I was like, oh, what? Like, what's happening? This is so bizarre. And I'm like, okay, but where are you guys? Like, where are you? And I like looked up, and all of a sudden, all of these alien faces started appearing like right here, like on top of me. And I started crying, and I was like, oh my God, my beautiful friends, I'm home. That was my reaction. And like coming from a girl that's terrified of ETs, like terrified, the fact that a bunch of different looking ETs appeared in front of me, like their faces, like super close to me, and they're poking and prodding me. And that was my reaction, is my beautiful
So you must have
friend
been,
home.
you must have been feeling something like, you must have been feeling that unconditional love kind of thing, like,
Oh, yes.
at that moment, you know, like,
Absolutely.
that way. Yeah.
Absolutely. It
Wow.
literally, I'd never felt that sense of home before. Like,
Wow.
I have wonderful parents. I have wonderful friends. Like, I constantly feel like loved and supported in everything in my life. But I mean, this
That's
sense of home was unlike anything that I've ever experienced before.
Wow. So cool.
Yeah. So after that experience, I was like, okay, they're ETs, and I guess they're friendly. Like, this is not the propaganda I've been shown in every movie ever. So through like meditation, I started learning to channel, and these like messages would start coming to me. And then this collective of 3 ETs that call themselves We the Three started speaking to me like as a collective. So they speak as one, but they're 3 ETs. And Cody's seen them. They're tall, thin, blue beings in like robes.
Wow. So they're all the same. They're all the same race.
These ones are all the same. Yeah.
Okay.
And from what I'm like understanding, because I try not to say anything until they give me the information. But from what I've gathered is that they're Arcturians, they're 11th dimensional Arcturians, and they've kind of called themselves like great ancient beings. Like, they're really like ancient, and they're like part of the collective that created our earthly realm.
Okay.
So like Earth School, they're the ones that created Earth School with other beings from other dimensions. But
this is an amazing story.
So can I interrupt you for a second and ask?
Absolutely.
So what is you just, for other people out there who have less experience with ayahuasca, myself and many other people have done ayahuasca and never actually had any sort of contact whatsoever with any sort of aliens or whatever. So I just want everybody to know that's not always the case for everybody. So
for most, it's not.
Well, yes. So what is the relationship, and if you know and understand on any level, between the connectivity of ayahuasca that has brought you this connection to your, spiritual brothers and sisters?
Well, in Peru, they actually talk about the extraterrestrials as the doctorcitos. So they're the doctors. They're the ones that do like the physical work on you. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, that makes sense why I felt like poking and prodding. And the crazy thing is, if you think about it, when people are like, oh, I got abducted by aliens, what happens to them? They're literally on an operating room table and freaking out because they're doing like surgery to them, right?
Right.
So it's just funny because now when I hear these stories of alien abductions, I'm like, yeah, I've been there. I'm like, they're good. They're trying to help you. Like, if you just calm down a little bit, they're just trying to help. But yeah, I don't really know how to say this. I don't know how to say this. So they basically have told me that I was like a little avatar, because we're all avatars, right? So our avatars, and these like beings like speak through me. So they're the ones that have like decided to speak through me. And I believe every single person has guides that want to speak to them all the time. Like, this is not unique to me. It's just that I have opened myself up in a way where I can allow this to like other higher dimensions to be able to speak to me. And
Right.
Everyone has this ability. This is not like unique. It's like your birthright to be able to do this. It's just opening yourself up, being in a mode of surrender, and you have to like meet their vibration because their vibration's really high. So have you ever like walked in a room somewhere and you get like a weird feeling and it feels like kind of like scary and you're like, whoo, what is that? Right? So beings that have so either people that have passed or interdimensional beings have a higher vibration. So when we die, we don't really die. We just pass on to a different vibration. It's just like waking up in another vibration and going on to a different existence. But their vibration is so high and it can feel overwhelming when they come in. You're like, whoa, that's scary. I don't like that. I don't like that. And you can like feel them like behind you or on the sides of you because like we don't even realize what's around us all the time. Like there would probably be just so many things all around us that we have no idea even live in our house, you know? And it's just because they're at a different vibration.
Right.
So when you go into channeling these beings or your guides or whoever you're wanting to channel, it's really like it's breath work. It's a lot of breath work to kind of bring in a lot of oxygen. And then you ask them to meet their vibration. So you can literally feel like this fluctuation happening in your body of the vibration as you raise your vibration and they lower theirs in order to meet you in the middle because they can't lower theirs completely to where we are. We have to meet them halfway.
So I have a couple questions for you, actually. So I found your
Forgive
Rio.
me for wincing, by the way. My back is bothering me a little bit. Forgive me.
Poor Jesse.
So if you see me make a face, it's not you guys. I love this conversation.
Jesse's like just angry in the corner.
So I'm gonna actually pop it up right now. I have I did see blah 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 boom. There's your website, so people can check you out and what you're all about there. And I saw you had a YouTube channel, and I saw some things about meditation and some kind of videos that you did, but I didn't see the channeling stuff. Is that on there? Do you do that?
So
Not publicly, or
I actually have been using TikTok. So TikTok is my go-to now. Actually, today I reached 100,000 friends on there.
Nice.
So
you're doing channeling on TikTok?
No. So my channeling's different. Like I'm not like Bashar or something where I'm just like, and then the beings came and talked
so
through
you're not a trance channel. You're
no.
It's different. Okay.
It's a different sort of channeling. That's the thing. There are many different forms of channeling. So a lot of people get like downloads, like all of a sudden just like drops of information, which I'm sure all of you have had stuff like that where all of a sudden you're like, I don't know that information. Where did that come from? Yeah, that sort of thing. So that's more of how I work.
When I did the Akashic record reading myself, I think the same one that you had done, which I came after listening to my entire family do them, and their readings were so on the money.
Hold on.
But when I did mine, I asked them what I was, because again, I don't do that. I'm not a Bashir kind of whatever. I like to say sometimes I know stuff. And they said that I was a spiritual conduit. Have you ever had any sort of like communication as to what like what your is it something similar like that, like being a connected to the spirit world essentially?
They keep calling me an alchemist. So
what does that mean? What does that mean to you when you
right? So how they've explained it is that I transmute energy. So by like being around someone or talking to them, I can literally like shift their energy just by like being around them and like speaking to them. And which there's a lot of people that are like that. Like, again, this is not unique to me. There's a lot of people like this, but that's like what they keep saying is that I am like an alchemist. I transmute energy here. And that's like my main job is to basically clear myself so they can like put the messages out there and then to be able to transmute energy of people that are around me or the people that I speak to or clients or whatever it may be.
And for those of you who don't know what alchemy is, so often we're talking about like, lead to gold and stuff, but really at a high level, alchemy is just about changing the idea, the energy behind a thing. You feel bad about the thing. Well, we're going to shift that energy to feeling good about the thing. You feel this way about the thing. We're going to change it to feeling this way. So she's somebody who's able to help redirect people's momentum, which we always like to talk about on the show, and that's a real benefit because most people, we really can't govern our and change our own momentum. We're just kind of lost within it.
Right.
So question for you. So this one's a little bit like off the beaten path one, but I'll say I'll leave out names, but I've come to some thoughts. You know how we have I guess it's in Norway where they send out the alchemist ladies or whatever to go talk to nature and make sure they don't build a highway in the wrong place because there are fairy mounds and energetic, places of significance. Have you ever heard of this?
I
I don't know.
don't, but I love it.
Oh yeah, so I'm not sure if it's Norway. I think it is, but there's like one country where they still to this day, before they build a highway or do any sort of construction, they consult with the spirits. And I think I've always known that there were places of significance on the planet, nexus points, ley lines, these things. And granted, I knew that because I played a science fiction game that me and my brothers played called Rifts, which really like set us up for a high level understanding of all sorts of spiritual thought, because it's all broken down into the stats of your characters. And if you play one of those characters, you got to understand how these things work, how magic works, and all their magic is based on real stuff. So you would learn about ley lines and nexus points on the earth where there is energy that's coming about, things like what do you call it? Stonehenge would be like a significant nexus point of energy or something like that. So
Right.
all that said, you talked about every house I went to was haunted. Is it also possible that because the universe is able to work things out in the necessary ways, that you could have been brought to a home that was built at a nexus, at an opening in reality? These openings, these points of connection with the other realities are only in so many places. Is it possible that you and other people who I won't mention, their homes might be in a place where there is access, and that's why because these people have to come through that passageway on some level to come into our world?
I mean, that kind of makes sense, because every time I have like gotten a house or moved or whatever, it's always been kind of in a strange way where it's not what I was expecting, and then all of a sudden I end up there. So that kind of makes sense, but I like it, Jesse. I'm into it. Yeah. See, the thing is, so the place that I live right now, this place doesn't have like a weird energy. But do you want to hear a really strange ghost story that happened here?
Yeah,
Of course.
Okay. I tell you this because it's so wild. It was the last one that happened before ayahuasca, because it was just like too much for me to handle. So I wake up in the morning, I get my coffee, do all the things. And I'm like, I'm going to go get my nails done today, and I'm going to go get some food, and then I'll come back. So I was in the house for a while, left. This is like 11 a.m. Leave the house, and I come back at probably around like 1 o'clock. So 1 o'clock, I have my food. I like put it in the living room, and I go to use the restroom, and I look on the ground in my hallway, and there's a puddle like this big in my hallway of like cloudy yellow something. And I'm like, what the hell? And so like I like get on my hands and knees. I'm like smelling it. I'm like, oh my God, it's urine. Like the most potent urine you've ever smelled. Like if a cat was like spraying somewhere, right? And so I start freaking out. I call my friend who like has access to like security if I need it. And I'm like, what do I do? He's getting on a plane. And I'm like, he's like, I need you to open or check all the windows, check all the doors, see if there's any way somebody could have got in, because nobody had a key to my place. And I was like, this is so bizarre. I look at everything. Everything is totally shut. There's nothing, right? So I like reach out to my management, like the management company. And I'm like, did somebody come into my apartment? There's pee on the ground. They're like, what? And I'm like, there's pee in my hallway. And so out of nowhere, I get a text from my grandma's friend who's a psychic. And she goes, I feel like you and I need to talk. And I was like, that's weird. And I'm like, actually, Lisa, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, there's in my hallway. And she goes, oh, she was like, I understand. She was like, so you and I are dealing with the same thing right now. Okay. She's like, does the pee lead? Oh, she goes, what were you doing last night? And I said, I don't know. My friend Jen came over and we were just hanging out. She goes, no, what did you do last night? I was like, we read tarot cards. She was like, there it is. She's like, okay. And I like wasn't into tarot reading at that time. Like I really hadn't read tarot. And so Jen, my friend who had been over, she had just got back from Georgia. She was there shooting a movie for like 3 months. And she told me that a lot of weird stuff was happening there. And she like just really she'd just come back like 2 days prior. So she like said there's a bunch of weird stuff happening. And I was like, well, let's like read some tarot cards and let's like figure out what's going on. And again, I had not really been reading tarot cards or doing anything. And so I'm texting with Lisa and she goes, does the P lead to where you were sitting when you were reading the tarot cards? And I was like, no, it's in the hallway. She was like, check. And I get on my hands and knees and sure enough, there's a fucking like strip of pee leading to the chair that I was sitting, which is that chair right there.
Holy shit.
I was sitting right there. And I was like, oh my God, Lisa, I was like, it leads right to the chair. And she goes, are there more pee circling where you were sitting? And I'm like, no, that was it. And she was like, go check. So of course, around my table, there are drops of pee or things of pee like this big circling the entire table. And I'm like, this is so crazy. What is happening? And she goes, is there a closet next to where you're sitting? And I'm like, yes. And as you can see right there, that closet door right there. And there's a weird lock on that door that like a latch, like on the outside. I'm like, why do you need a latch on the outside of a closet is the real question, right?
Right.
And she goes, well, at least you know where it's hiding. And I'm like,
Oh, shit.
what do you mean it's in the closet? What are you talking about? So she goes, okay. She was like, I need you to anoint the house. And she's like, she sends me this whole thing of what to say. And I have to use oil and like anoint the house. So I call Jen and I'm like, Jen, something weird has happened. And she like calls me and she's working at Warner Brothers at the time. And she calls me and she goes, okay, Tanya, something weird happened to me last night when I left your house. She's like, the moment I pulled up, her neighbor who literally had the door across from hers threw himself in front of a car moments before she got there. And he was laying in the street, like laying there. And she then she, in the middle of the night, finds herself, like she doesn't sleepwalk, finds herself walking out her front door. And so she's like, oh my God, she was like, something weird is happening. And she's like, I can't even think right now. I'm leaving work. I'm going to come over. And I'm like, okay, come over and help me anoint the house because I don't know what I'm doing. So I like start like anointing the house and reading this thing because Lisa's very Christian. And so like, everything is like, in the name of the Father, like, leave demon, you know? So I'm like anointing the house, but I'm feeling this like really like heavy feeling on my chest. And I'm like, oh, something's weird here. So I call Lisa and I'm like, I don't know what's happening. It's like hard to breathe. And she calls me. She goes, put me on speakerphone. Take me to the closet. I'm like, okay. So I have her on speakerphone in front of the closet and I'm telling Jen, like, record this, record what she's saying so we can take it to your house and do it too. And so she does this whole exorcism on the house. And the person I was seeing at the time, I was like, hey, just so you know, like I'm coming over for the weekend. This was on a Thursday. I'm like, I'm just going to be there for a couple of days, just so you know. And we go to Jen's house. We do like play the audio thing or whatever. And Lisa calls and she goes, who has the Ouija board? And I'm like, I don't. And Jen goes, I do. And she goes, you need to burn that right now.
Oh,
so I go and like burn this Ouija board. This black smoke is coming out and this high pitch, like screeching noise is coming out of the fire. And we're like, oh my God, like just this billow of smoke. It was terrible for environment. Sorry. So we do the whole thing, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go pick up some food for me, my boyfriend at the time. And so I go to Paquito Mas, which is like this burrito place down the road. And I'm like waiting in line for my food. And there's like light mariachi music playing in the background. And all of a sudden it just starts like this screeching, the same screeching from the fire goes over the speakers. Everyone in the restaurant's plugging their ears like, oh my God, what is that? The guys in the back are trying to fix the radio. Nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden it cuts to this super, super loud static. And then right back to light mariachi music. And everyone's looking around like, what the fuck just happened? What's going on? And I'm like, and then and by the way, I'm so sorry. This all happened right when they were like, Tanya, like my food order, right? Tanya. And it was like, reaching. And I was like, this is the most horrifying thing ever. So I like,
that guy was like, fuck you, Tanya.
Right.
I'm imagining the scene when Satan gets sucked into hell by Tenacious D. Fuck you, Jables! Fuck
Yeah.
you, Tenacious D!
Yeah. Oh my God. So anyways, I like call Lisa and I'm like, I don't know what just happened. She's like, oh, they're gonna be messing with you for a little bit, but don't worry, like you're fine. And so like that was the type of stuff that I was dealing with, like all the time, like really crazy shit, like ghost pee. And so that's why I was living like in a constant state of fear because
I was going to say, was this before you were living in fear or after you?
this is before while I
Wow.
was still living in
It's
fear.
crazy. That is definitely the craziest story I think we've ever had on this show, for sure.
The ghost P. Yeah, I was gonna say she's a colorful director. She's a colorful storyteller. I love you, Tanya. You're the best.
I have so many questions for you, Tanya, about
Oh,
your channeling and the Arcturians and all of these things.
I know we haven't even got to alien
I
simulation.
know,
yet.
right?
I feel like we need to wrap up the conversation we've already had so that we can bring her back another time and expand on some other things. How does that sound?
I think we're going to have to do that.
So to wrap up this conversation, I guess, just because there's, a certain amount of mystery still surrounding the, your connection to these aliens and them, doing things to you, whatnot. So, what have they done to you? Were there effects and changes in your life based on things that have happened? Where does the story kind of end and wrap up so that we can send you home and we'll have you back another time?
Okay. Well, so I'm just going to tell you really quick though. They showed me the simulation that we're living in and that it's like a big giant game for self-knowledge, right? So God like fractions itself off, source, God, whatever you like to call it, fractions itself off and it created like a dimension. And then when those beings woke up, they created another dimension because we're all creators, because we're all source consciousness. So once we awaken fully, we can become actual creators and put our consciousness into other life. So that's what like all the dimensions are. It's literally just a higher vibration of beings that have created and projected their consciousness from source into like a game, basically for ultimate self-knowledge. And so they have like showed me how this game works. And they're slowly giving me more and more information because if they give me too much, it freaks me out. And then all of a sudden I'm like completely just, I don't want to talk to anybody or anything for like 2 weeks. And I'm just like, I can't even process this information. It's just too much. So, so these beings have showed me like what this, world is and how it works. And like literally it's kind of just like everything's 2D. And it's like if you took something and pushed, those nails, those beds of nails that you put your hand in and then the hand pops up on the other side. Yeah. It's like that. So they're kind of just showing that everything is all connected in this 2D sort of space. And then you push an image out and that's like us. Mm-hmm. And they literally have showed me like them kind of just floating and hovering above. And they think of us as their children because we're their creation and part of their consciousness is projected into us. And so they're just another perspective to be able to share information with us once we open ourselves up to understanding that. So in one of my ayahuasca ceremonies, so I've had chronic back pain since I was 11 years old because I got in a major car accident and then have had other major back injuries as I got older. And my back, this was, I guess, in August of this year. I was in so much pain constantly, like so much pain. I could like every hour I would have to like lay on the ground and just be like, why is this happening? Why is my back hurting so badly? They would just like tense up. So in an ayahuasca ceremony, like literally at the end of the ayahuasca ceremony, I could feel them coming into like my space. And I'm like, I'm supposed to be out of this. What are you guys doing? Why are you still here? And then they like push me into my childhood home where I was when I was 5 years old. And this is like, I know this is going to be like TMI, whatever, but we're going to talk about poop for a second. So, so it literally showed me, and it was like, it was like my living room when I was 5 years old. And they were like, you have to go talk to her. She's under the piano. And I'm like, what do you mean she's under the piano? And I look under there, my 5-year-old self is under the piano, like literally holding in going to the bathroom because I had all this shame about going to the bathroom, right? Like as a kid, for some reason, my parents, like it wasn't like It was like this big mystery. Like he didn't talk about it, right? So I had to go and is like crawl under the piano and go talk to her. Like, you have to help her. And I'm like, this is so bizarre. So I like crawl under the piano and talk to my 5-year-old self. And I'm like, hey, Tanya, girl. I'm like, listen, it's not really good to do this. Like, don't like hold in this stuff. Like, there's no shame. It's okay, blah, blah, blah. So I literally like grab her hand and like pull her out from underneath the piano and like take her towards the bathroom. And as soon as I do that, I'm like shot back into the room where like in the ceremony room. And I start throwing up like chunks, like giant chunks of something. And I have no idea. I've been throwing up all night and I hadn't eaten anything. Like, there was nothing to come out of me, right? So I'm throwing up these chunks and I'm like, why is this happening to me? What's going on? And then as soon as I was able to take a breath, I took like this really deep breath and like let it go. And all of a sudden my lower back just went poof, and released, completely released.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God. And they were showing me that stored trauma in the body literally causes so much pain. And we think it's from like an outside source that has caused this to happen, but we actually hold on. Wow. And when we have trauma that happens to our bodies and we already have stored trauma in that area, because if you think about it, your intestines, right, or right where your lower back is, it's just on the other side.
Right.
So they were showing me that when you have external physical trauma, but then you also have emotional trauma in the same space, it creates this intense pain, and it just will stay there and get worse and worse and worse until you fix it. So you can actually go in to past memories into your child's self and find the trauma and speak to your child's self and parent yourself.
Were you holding on to the shame of the poop from the 5-year-old?
I guess so. I mean, listen, okay, first of all, being a woman, right? We're not supposed to like burp or fart or do anything, right?
Yo, Tanya, sex aside, I connect to that completely. It's funny, you know, when my mother tells me I smell, it makes me like I can remember her like you know, using the bathroom or whatever and be like, and I that really bothers me. I was getting a tattoo from one of my best friends, and I had to go to the bathroom so bad, like while I was sitting there. But I didn't want to use his bathroom because I feel, I felt shame about that. Like to me, it was just like being a negative, having a negative impact on other people, and I would hold it to get. You know how many times I've like held it until I got home. Because I didn't want to I
think a lot of people can relate to that.
But I mean,
apparently,
to my terrible detriment, like really putting myself through like a lot of trauma, and like I got a 45-minute drive to be panicking the whole time, you know, and then the majority of the time I've always made it home, but it's like oh my God, you know.
Well, Jesse, you saying you have back pain, maybe you got poop shame.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
As you're saying it, I'm like, do I have poop shame? What is going
that's
on?
Exactly. Do I have poop shame?
I have to resolve my poop shame.
Your younger self.
You know,
just try it. Just try it.
Wait a second. My back is starting to feel better all of a sudden.
So wait, here's my other question about that.
Have I just gotten over my poop
story?
Shame? Everybody in the comments, tell me that it's okay to have smelly poop.
so
Tanya, make
Tanya,
me feel better.
Did you
no reason to be ashamed?
Was that a real situation? Did you remember hiding under the piano? Yes. And did you remember something coming to you and holding your hand and taking?
No, but that would be so bizarre.
That would be really cool, right? Oh my God, that was me.
So cool. That would be so cool. Oh my God, I visited on my time
traveled.
I mean, but that's the thing. Since time is not linear, right? Like we literally can go back and change our past if we choose to. It's just going in there with the right intentions and knowing the tools of doing it, which is using like the emotional connection to the trauma to be able to release it in our bodies. Like we're so powerful.
And all you need to know is what you did. I know what I did. I know that I had a conversation with myself. I know that is the new thing. And I know that by reopening that box and going through that moment with somebody coming to me and saying it's okay, that's all I needed at the time. Look, now I gave it to myself. You know, essentially you're just feeding the illusion machine, but the illusion machine is what's killing us all. You know, we create these illusions that hurt us, and then it's for us to go back into those illusions and give ourselves the medicine that we didn't get at the time.
Well, it's because we're told false truths all the time. Like we're constantly told who we have to be, how we have to be, right? Like by our teachers, by our society, by our parents. It's constant programming, right? But it's false programming. And so our authentic selves want to be expressed a very specific way because we've been designed as a unique puzzle piece to be able to express very uniquely. So when we're not expressing our authentic self and we are seeing this outside perspective saying, no, you need to be like this, and it doesn't agree with what you're feeling, you start to distrust yourself.
Right.
And that distrust causes shame, guilt, fear, trauma. It causes so much trauma in the body. So that's why finding yourself and coming back home to yourself is literally the best part of healing, because you can heal everything once you realize how powerful you are and you have control of your entire being, and your authentic self is expressed perfectly, like as its perfect, unique self. That doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm talking about.
I get you. No, and honestly, I feel markedly better. I honestly, 2 minutes ago, I was going, man, how am I going to get in the car? And yeah, how am I going to get in the car and drive where I'm going? I'm really not feeling. I'm feeling so uncomfortable. And I got a lot going on beyond just that, but I totally feel a lot better, and I do actually think
we had a healing tonight.
I connected to the conversation, and I kind of have a feeling if I meditate on it a little bit more and understand where my feelings are coming from, I'm probably going to have even more of a positive reaction from it.
Yeah.
Find the trauma. Literally anyone listening, I'm telling you, if you can go back to a childhood trauma and go back and like in a meditative state, being completely open and go in and parent yourself, give yourself the information that you need at that point. It doesn't matter if it's your 25-year-old self or your 4-year-old self. It doesn't matter wherever the trauma occurred. Like we all know where pieces of trauma lie. And if you don't, maybe you're like really suppressing these memories, then like sit with it and like sit with it. Look where the pain is in your body. If it's your shoulder, if it's your arm, if it's like whatever it is, like sit with it until the memory arises, and then go into that as a little time traveler and speak to yourself and give it the messages of healing that you needed, right?
Absolutely.
Try it. Why not? Try it.
Tanya, we're going to wrap this up first.
You have to come back. Are you interested in coming back? Tell me yes. Please.
I would love to. Let's do it.
Oh, this is great.
So first, let me thank all of our listeners, viewers at home, everybody who's been commenting, paying attention. Let's thank the Rams Network, Rock Against MS, for hosting us here on Twitch. And let us announce with Tanya here, we've got a special announcement. We've got our calendar for we already had our calendar for next month, but we got our calendar for August, and we've got some incredible guests coming on to the show. Michael, who is our guest for the first 2 weeks of August?
I didn't bring it up. Let me bring it up. We have actually the first 3 months of August all set. Oh, where is it? I have Samantha Leah. Amazing musician, artist, but also very based in spirituality. Hold on, I'm opening up the calendar because I didn't make a graphic for it yet. July, August, Samantha Leah. And then the next week we have Alicia Munyan, who is also a very spiritual Reiki master, hypnotist, just another local friend from my circle. And she's going to share her spirituality with me. And you just gave me our third week.
The week after that, I finally convinced her. She was resistant. She's being all shy. But when I finally told her, I was talking about what one of our other guests were talking about. She was like, well, that's easy. I could come on and do that. I said, I know you can come on and do that. I said, we're trying to collect, people's experiences, so that the people out there in the world don't have to feel so alone. And, it was always a hard thing for me, experiencing things different ways than other people were experiencing them and feeling like, oh, man, I'm like so alone. I'm the only one experiencing it like this. But I'm really excited to have my mom, Suzette Snyder, who is an artist and a beautician and so many different things, and also a psychonaut and a big advocate for ayahuasca. Anyway,
you need 4 hours for Suzette.
We do. We'll have her on again, hopefully. But thank you for joining us on another live stream of consciousness. We'll see you next week.
Hey, wait a second.
Bye.
You got to give me
Wait,
more
no.
than that.
I don't give you more than we no.
I didn't want to
We're
add
an hour
anything,
and
but
15 minutes over. We're very over.
but I got to
Okay.
run the
You know
outro
what? I'm
and all
sorry.
that.
When we start to get to 116, I hate the number 16. See, now we got to go a minute over because I don't
all
like
right.
ending it on the 16th. So now you've taken way too long because I
Let's
hate
go
this number
another
6.
minute.
Listen, Tanya, I was
Wait.
in a relationship for almost 20 years with 16 being my favorite number, only to find out that 16 is the Master Arcana for the Tower card. And in my Arcana deck, it's called Caught in the Ruins. And it so applied to my life of being unable to move from my thing that 16 has now become a scarring number for me, where I'm literally like, 16's ended on a 16.
Jesse, go do trauma work on 16.
I do. I got to do some trauma work on 16. I keep trying. My angels keep messing with me and giving me lots of 16s, and they're making me laugh about it. But when it comes to the show, I'm just like, I don't like it to end there.
All right. Well, we're past the 16.
I'm sorry, Michael. What do you want to add?
I just want to say, Tanya, hang out for a second so we can talk to you
Okay.
after we leave. Jesse, I love you.
I love you too.
I am so happy that I manifested this being the best episode yet, because I said this is going to be an interesting one, and that was just, man, that story was out of this world, literally.
Yes, thank you so much, sweetie, for coming on the show. And
Thank you for having me.
I tell my brother I love him so much.
I will.
Good night.
Night.